Tired of your old kitchen or bathroom? Upgrade to the home of your dreams with Manny and Courtney from CMK Construction. CMK Construction is Tampa's award-winning kitchen and bath leader for over 20 years. Right now, save $3,000 on a new kitchen and $2,000 on a new bathroom. And take advantage of our no money down and no interest financing until 2026. Imagine, design, build. Tired of your old kitchen?
From the Tampa Bay 28 Weather Center in Studio A. This is Dennis Phillips Live. Brought to you by CMK Construction, crafting Tampa's most exquisite bathrooms and kitchens.
How you doing, everybody? It is a Monday night edition of Dennis Phillips Live. Thanks for stopping by. If you're new to the show, if you just happen to be flipping through channels on cable, you're like 17 on Spectrum, oh, what is this? Or 23 on Frontier, oh, what is this? It's a religious program. No, actually, originally that was the description. I still to this date have no idea how that happened. But what we are is a little bit of everything. We talk weather, we talk tropics, we talk whatever y'all want to talk about. It is a very interactive show. So the best way to experience it, you watch TV, so you get to see the whole thing. It looks bigger and better. And at the same time, you can follow along on your phone or on your computer, on Facebook. The comments are right here on the link on my Facebook page, and you get a chance. And most of the time, people are having their own conversations entirely. But we have got lots of stuff to talk about. I think our rain chances are going up tomorrow and again on Wednesday. While the tropics activity, we are coming up on the peak of hurricane season tomorrow, and yet all is quiet. And I know I'm not supposed to use the Q word, but Stokes, everything okay? Yeah, I'm good. All right, good. Stokes just came in, one of our directors. Usually when I'm on this show and someone from production or engineering walks in at the beginning, it means I've screwed up in some way, shape, or form and pressed the wrong buttons here and we're not working. But apparently we are okay. So how was your weekend? So Adam is already wreaking some havoc, saying the Canes are going to kill USF. Now you noticed, of course, Adam has a Hurricanes logo next to his name, so my guess is a little biased, but as you see here, I am repping the USF Bulls. I will tell you, I missed the end of that game. So I was emceeing a function for the Sunshine Foundation on Saturday night. And my family, I have 6 kids. I have 2 Bulls, I have 2 Gators, I have 1 Knoll. I'm a Penn Stater. My son, who's a senior in high school, went on the thread and said, well, and it's between UF and USF for him. And he goes, you know what, I guess whoever wins the game, I'll end up going there. So he's like, after the game, I'm looking at this thread because I did not see how the game ended because I was working. And all of a sudden I saw my one son who graduated USF, my oldest one, who's a doctor now, and he's like, USF. And then my other son says, it looks like I'm going to Tampa. I'm like, what? Because I did not expect USF to win that game, nor did many other people. And I went and I saw the final, and I saw Gramatica kick the game-winning field goal on the last play of the game, which he almost pulled that. I mean, when it went up, and it was almost an extra point, but it looked like it was going a little left at first. I'm like, well, and then, I saw it, and obviously it was a huge victory for the Bulls. I do want to mention this, because a lot of folks have asked me this, and I've got a hoodie. I've got a Gator hoodie, a Knoll hoodie, a Bulls hoodie, a Knights hoodie. I've got Penn State, Lightning, Bucks. I've kind of got them all. And I've purchased all of them because all of the proceeds benefit local charities. So I will go ahead and show you this. You can grab these on my Facebook page, and it's at the very top. You'll see a link for all this stuff. And whether it's water bottles or tumblers or hoodies or tanks or zip-up hoodies or the regular sweatshirts, T-shirts, hats, all proceeds benefit Children's Miracle Network, Feeding Tampa Bay, Sunshine Foundation, and you click on them and you get all the different colors and all the different styles and whatnot. So again, you go to the top of my Facebook page, you'll see Rule. At the very top, you'll see a link to all of the different hoodies and whatnot, the merch, and again, it benefits all those local charities. I want to go ahead and do a quick look at radar, let you guys know what's going on, because we have got some pretty significant rains that will continue to fall over the next 48 hours. There's a live look at radar, and there's still some rain across western Pasco County and also now moving into northern and northwestern Pinellas County. So if we take, I'm going to go ahead and just actually zoom into the area in Pinellas. So my neck of the woods right now getting some rain. I actually see some showers from around Innisbrook down to Curlew, over to Alderman, back up toward Tarpon Springs and the Holiday area. So over the last 15, 20 minutes, these showers are moving southwest. So a few more will develop, but most of the rain overnight will be offshore, and there's still some rain across Highlands County as well. There's rainfall totals over the last 24 hours, and you can see coastal areas have seen most of it. Here are some of those totals. You go into eastern Pasco County from Zephyr Hills, Wesley Chapel, an inch or two. Northwestern from Hudson back down toward Bayonet Point, about an inch. Hernando and Citrus County, inland areas, eastern Citrus has picked up most of it. Outside right now, temperatures mostly, I know people are like, Sean, how you doing? I'm looking at the comments, by the way. If you're watching on TV, the comments are kind of delayed from when you're actually seeing this, but a lot of people say do not use the Q word. Well, we will look at the geophysic, and you know what the geophysic does. It's what it always does. It is spinning up a tropical storm or a hurricane about 7 or 8 days out. We're going to talk more about that coming up in a minute, and we're actually going to have a pretty good conversation about that, all right? Actual highs today along the coast, only the mid-80s because of all the clouds. Upper 80s in Tampa. Plant City hit 90. That is a tropical look out there right now in Tampa. Cloudy at 85 degrees. Dew point in the mid-70s. Humidity in the mid-70s. Today we were 3 degrees below average at 88. The normal is 91. The record is 95. We had 1/107 inch of rain at the airport. And officially just about 2 inches below average. I'm with you, Connie. Connie's like, where is the sun? Tired of it. You are correct, Jules, after the break. So there's a look at Futurecast. Tonight, we're mostly cloudy, but not a lot of rain. I want to go hour by hour tomorrow morning. From 8 to 9, the rain starts to move in from the Gulf. I truly believe we will see waterspouts or two tomorrow. There's 11 o'clock. There's lunchtime. Look at where you live. And that'll answer your questions as to what you're going to experience. There's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. The rain is going to be coming in from the Gulf most of the morning hours into the afternoon, and then it starts moving inland. All right? And then we clear out overnight, just like we will tonight. By 5, 6 a.m., we do it again. We see more rain coming in from the Gulf as weak low pressure just kind of sits out there and kind of spins some moisture our general direction. But then we see some changes. And those changes bring drier air, much drier air, by Friday into the weekend. And look at this, my friends. I think we are going to have a spectacular weekend weather-wise. By the way, South Florida, Miami, for the Canes game and the Bulls, there could be rain. That front may stall out in South Florida. But for us, lower dew points, mostly sunny skies, and morning lows in the upper 60s to lower 70s. So that is a look at our forecast into the weekend. So let's go ahead and look at the 7-day. There it is. Tomorrow, rain chances 60 to 80%, starting along the coast, moving inland. About the same on Wednesday. A dry, weak front sinks down late Thursday into Friday, dropping the dew points, teasing us with a little cooler air, especially in the mornings. Not in the afternoon. We're still going to be upper 80s to near 90, lots of sunshine, but you'll notice it in the mornings. When we come back, you know the models are still showing the tropical season because we're at the peak, and yes, they are. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what may have or could have become Gabrielle and never did, and kind of what that was, that experience in terms of messaging to you from different meteorologists, from different weather enthusiasts. We've got some really, I think, conversations that need to happen, and we'll do that as DPL continues. Okay, we are in the commercial break. Folks, how are you? RA saying maybe even a snuggle alert. You know what? I don't disagree with you. If it drops into the 60s, why not? I'm with you on that. So, Tony, how you doing? Good to see you. Greg, good to see you. Can I crack open hurricane snacks? I think hurricane snacks are, I mean, let's be honest. How many of us replace our hurricane snacks on a continuous basis right through the hurricane season? Raise your hand. I certainly do. I just do. I mean, but I'm a snacker. So truth be told, I'm more of a soda and sugaraholic than I am. I'm not a big drinker. I got a lot of vices in my world, but alcohol is probably not one of them. I mean, I've got a beer named after me. I enjoy a good beer from now and again, but if I had a vice, it is sweets. Sweets are definitely, and soda. I mean, I'm not lying. During hurricane season, I drink a 12-pack of Diet Dr. Pepper a day. And I know, save the dentist, it's bad for you. Look, I know. But I'm old enough at this point in my life that I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to live my life and enjoy it as I can. We are down to 5 seconds. That was 7 seconds. 6, 5. All right. And then we'll be back with broadcast. All right. So in 3, 2. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Dennis Phillips Live, watching on broadcast. Thank you again. I'm telling you, the best way to play it is to watch on broadcast. Follow the comments along social media. So we're going to talk tropics right now, all right? And in doing so, we're going to have some conversations about the last week. We are coming up today and tomorrow as the, Abby's like, we were talking candy during the break, by the way. We're talking about different vices and whatnot. And my vices, I have a sugar vice. I am a Diet Dr. Pepper-aholic, and I am a candy-aholic. I just always have been, and I probably always will be. That is my vice. But one thing, and again, these are the conversations we have during the commercial breaks. Nokomis is in the house. How you doing, Cheryl? This is something you would not expect to see as we approach the peak of the hurricane season. From the Hurricane Center, no development expected over the next 7 days. Now, why is that such an unusual occurrence? Well, if you look at the month of September, typically things are very active in the month of September. Matter of fact, September 10th, 11th, in that ballpark is the historical peak of hurricane season. But we have been looking at some Saharan dust, some stable atmospheric conditions that have been squashing the potential development. So let's go ahead and look at some models and see how things are shaping up over the next 7 to 10 days. Because truthfully, it's looking pretty good, right? There's a look at September, all right? Here is a look at the GFS. Going to jump right into it, okay? Because we've talked, you guys know over the last couple of months, the GFS has a bias for developing tropical systems when they don't really develop. But there's one thing I'm going to mention to you, and I talked about this on Friday's show, which was not on TV, but it was on streaming. The GFS now for the last 10 days has constantly been trying to develop low pressure in the Gulf. This particular ensemble run, this is the next 15 days. It develops a hurricane, brings it into Texas. Develops a hurricane, brings it into the Panhandle. Develops a hurricane, brings it into our area. Now, the fact that those individual runs are out there are meaningless. There are 51 some odd runs, and that is the extreme minority, literally a 2% accuracy rate. But I will tell you what my experience has shown me over these 4 decades that I've been doing the weather, is that when the GFS continues for a prolonged period of time to develop low pressure down here, more often than not, it's wrong for the first week or two. But when it continues to show it, eventually it happens. And that is what we often see with the GFS. So the GFS is trying to eventually, with the CAG down here, the Central American Gyre, trying to develop low pressure. And if low pressure develops down here, more often than not, it is going to go north, okay? So that's what the GFS is showing. And the GFS operational shows the same thing, and as you might expect, it does develop a tropical storm. This is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nothing going on. Next Sunday, nothing going on. And it starts next week, next Monday or Tuesday, to develop weak low pressure down there. Now again, let me throw in a disclaimer. This is an operational run. This is not something that you should put any credence in other than the fact that the GFS has been persistent in showing eventual development. And then it develops something and brings it into the Gulf. And whether it's north or northwest or northeast, it doesn't matter. The point is, 10 to 11 days out, the GFS continues to try to develop something. Now, let's look at the Euro. The Euro also is showing general low pressure development and has a few runs that go north. Not many, but a few. It also has a few out in the tropical Atlantic where the majority curve north. So as is the case quite often, it'll go like this and then go zoop, and then curve right away from the U.S. But 1 or 2 runs do get closer to the U.S. and the Bahamas. That's about 13 days out. What about the Euro AI? The Euro AI shows none of it. And I will tell you, the Euro AI has been pretty bad in terms of development. It does show another wave out in Africa, and then zoop, curves it away. But the Euro AI also has broad low pressure that it eventually brings to the north as a weak system. So what does this tell us? All right? I'll say this again. We are coming up at the peak of the hurricane season. We are going to get a lot more development. If you think the season ends like this, it's just not going to happen. We are going to have more development. We are going to have Caribbean development. We are going to have Gulf development. It will happen. I would be floored if we don't see additional development through the end of October. You never say never, I guess, but I would be flabbergasted if we did not see development in the Caribbean and hurricanes in the Gulf. I just think it's going to eventually happen. But at least for the time being, we are getting a break as we enter the peak of the hurricane season. When we come back, we're going to talk more about that cold front. We're going to talk about drier air, lower humidity, and we're going to talk about messaging and what it is that you're looking for and what you expect and what you don't expect when it comes to hurricane season and the information that is readily out there on the internet. More on that coming up in 90 seconds. Holy cow, I hit my second break and I'm still okay. Wow. So that's, you guys know, that's pretty rare for me. I'm really doing my best. Okay, you find me on cable, Spectrum Channel 17, Becky, Frontier Channel 23. So, Beth, you like dark chocolate. I hate dark chocolate. Hate it. It's so bitter to me. I love milk chocolate. Kittle out for 4 weeks. Adam, thank you for that update. That is going to make my CMC, who is still apparently healthy, even better. So that's a good thing. We have 45 seconds left. By the way, and I'm going to mention this in a minute. I was just talking to my buddy Mike Boylan, Mike's weather page. Look, there was so much drama in terms of messaging with Gabrielle. And I'm going to talk about that when we come back, because I think it's a good conversation. Look, there are some people who believe messaging should be we'll get into this in a minute. And again, I'm going to have Mike on either tomorrow or Thursday. Now, Wednesday, we're going to have the editor-in-chief of the Farmer's Almanac. So you want to know what the Farmer's Almanac is saying on cold weather, on snow, on the rest of the hurricane season, tune in on Wednesday night on DPL. And we're back. So we are back. And I was just talking to the folks. I'll let y'all on TV know. Wednesday night, we're going to have the editor of the Farmer's Almanac in to talk about hurricane season, to talk about snowstorms, to talk about long-range predictions. All right. So I want to talk real quickly. Let's go ahead and show you that front that is on the way. All right. Go ahead and take this for you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about messaging. So Bridget, Cruise Mike is going to be on tomorrow. How do you know that? How do you know Cruise Mike? Did he reach out to you? Cruise Mike was the guy who was on a ship, and he looks a lot like me, and everybody went up for selfies to him and like, hey, you're Dennis. Like, no, I'm Mike. I don't even know who this Dennis person is. But Cruise Mike is now part of our group. So here's a look at temperatures. All right, this is Wednesday, 8 p.m. Still warm and humid. Drier air comes down. Here, where's the map? All right, here you go. No, that's not the map. That's my Zoom that I'm having with the. Here it is. Okay. So here's a look at Tuesday, Wednesday. You still got low pressure in the Gulf, that front draped over us, which is why we have rain chances. And then look at Friday. Look how it starts to retreat south, which is why I'm a little concerned there could be some rain for the Bulls and the Canes. But look at that drier air that comes in. That rain is pushed all the way down to South Florida. Now, you see low pressure in the Great Lakes. This is 10, 12, 13 days out. Then you see a snowstorm up north. But drier air and a little cooler air comes in. Where's the temperature map that I had? Where is it? I must have deleted it. Oh, well. Anyway, like I said, that drier air comes in on Friday into Saturday. Morning lows in the upper 60s. And here, I'll show it to you on the 7-day again. Okay? There it is on the 7-day. Morning lows Saturday morning, upper 60s to low 70s. Afternoon highs in the mid to upper 80s. Lots and lots of sunshine. Looks really, really good. Okay? So let's recap. All right? Nothing expected over the next 7 days for development. Front coming through, bringing lower dew points and some cooler mornings Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow night, and Wednesday, a rainy stretch. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and take that one more time if you tuned in late. We'll go ahead and look at Futurecast. All right? So, but here's where we are in the tropical season right now. We are coming up on the peak of the hurricane season. That's where we are today. But over the next 7 days, no development expected. But as I told you, the GFS and the Euro are hinting, as they should, that down the road there will be Caribbean development, because there is going to be. There just will. Overnight, we're pretty quiet. Tomorrow morning, we start to see rain stacking up along the coast. There's 9 a.m., there's 10 a.m., there's 11 a.m., there will be water spouts tomorrow and Wednesday. I can guarantee you, it's a word I don't like to use often, but I'm telling you, there will be water spouts offshore the next couple of days as that low pressure is hanging out there. So we will have some, I'm not ready to call tomorrow a washout, but it's going to be generally cloudy and definitely a rain off and on through the day. Maybe a little bit less on Wednesday, but still it starts first thing in the morning. That's 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, right on through the afternoon. Okay? So that is where we are right now. We're going to hit one last break, and we're going to talk about who our guest will be tomorrow, as well as Wednesday, or maybe Thursday. And I quickly do want to talk a little bit about messaging, because there was a lot of drama out there in terms of meteorologists that posted things, about enthusiasts who post things, and the response is starting to get a little terse and a little heated. We'll talk about that in 90 seconds. Okay, this is our last break, right? Now, Kevin, the Caribbean is really our biggest concern, I'll be honest. Typically, a storm coming in from the Western Caribbean into the Gulf is the ones that we need to be most concerned about. And I'll show you, because in the month, well, I don't have the map handy. Oh, there's that other temperature I was going to show. Here, I'll show you guys. Here's the advantage of watching now as opposed to on TV. So here are those lows we talked about. Look at those 60s on Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Some 60s. I will show that on TV again, too, just because I try to be equal opportunity. So Renee's asking if there'll be flooding tomorrow. I do think there will be some small areas that are going to see some flooding if they've had a lot of rain. It isn't going to rain all day, but there's going to be tropical rains that are going to move in from the Gulf onshore through the day. Can the low in the Gulf develop into something, Travis? No, it will not. So you're right. It's like two different audiences completely. We're down to 10 seconds. 10 seconds. All right. And but I do not believe it's going to be a washout, Stan. I really don't. Okay, we are in 3. This computer's got to be moved. 2, 1. All right, folks, we are back for our last 2.5 minutes on broadcast. This is the temperature I was talking about Saturday and Sunday mornings, upper 60s to lower 70s with low dew points. So some really nice weather ahead. So I was talking to my buddy Mike Boylan over at Mike's Weather Page. He's either going to be on the show tomorrow or Thursday. Ren, how you doing? So Mike was on the show last time, and we had that tornado that caused the damage, and he went out and chased, and I had to cover it, so we couldn't finish it. But I want to have a conversation with Mike, and I want to have a legitimate, honest conversation, because there was a lot of drama with Gabrielle online. And in a nutshell, this is what's going on. You've got meteorologists who get their degree in meteorology, who spend a lot of time, and they are balking, some are balking at certain enthusiasts showing long-range forecast maps. One of my old news directors actually made a comment on a post of Greg and saying, look, why is it a bad thing if you're not as relevant as something I can get on my iPhone? Well, let me explain why. Because meteorologists, more often than not, don't want to be wrong. We're making a forecast. A lot of enthusiasts, and Mike and I talk about this a lot, Mike shows lots of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to show things and possibilities, that's your prerogative. That's your page. That's your audience. That's your message. I don't think there's a thing wrong with it. The reason I choose not to do it, and the reason I think a lot of meteorologists choose not to do it, is because we are making a forecast with something, and if we know that model is going to be wrong 98% of the time, I don't want to show it because I don't want to be wrong 98% of the time. Yet a lot of the enthusiasts will show it as an option of things that are possible. And it's not a forecast, it's just showing what's a possibility. But for me, if I post something like that, people are going to see it, and they're going to think, oh, he's saying this is going to happen. So it really is a gray area. And for TV folks, we don't really have a ton of time to go over this. Mike will either be on tomorrow or Thursday, and we're going to have a lot of conversations about it. And we want your feedback, because my goal is to give you what you need to be ready for a storm, and without doing so in a frightening way. So that's going to either be tomorrow or Thursday. Wednesday, the editor of the Farmer's Almanac. Lots of fun stuff on DPL, and we hope you tune in on our next edition of DPL. We continue on Facebook and streaming. Okay, so now that we're back just on us, and I want to say a couple things. And again, Mike and I are going to talk about this. And I just think it's a really good conversation because Greg got pretty ticked off last week about particular meteorologists, TV meteorologists who posted a long-range forecast that showed a storm hitting Florida. That's what one of the models were showing, all right? And then some of the people were saying, why don't, my old news director and said, well, why aren't you showing it if I can see it on my iPhone? Well, I'll say it again. We're not showing it because it's not going to be right. And I don't want to be wrong. So if it's wrong 98% of the time, from my standpoint and from a lot of other meteorologists' standpoint, not all, many, why would we show something that we know is going to be wrong? That's the difference. Or wrong 98% of the time, because we don't know it, I guess, but a blind squirrel every once in a while finds a nut. See what I'm saying? Whereas enthusiasts, and Mike is part of this group and admits it, he'll show lots of stuff because there's an interest. So I think it's apples and oranges. I really do. From my standpoint, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but from my standpoint, I hate to be wrong. So why would I post something that I know is wrong, even to say that I know it's going to be wrong? That's my take on things. That's just me. There are others who want to show that. And by the way, I know there are people out there who also want to see everything, which is why we show the ensembles, which is a more accurate representation, 50 some odd runs with little things tweaked, positioning tweaked, intensity tweaked, gives you kind of more of an idea of what's a reasonable range as opposed to a single run of something, which brings a hurricane into Florida and 2 days later it was gone. So it is, I think, a valuable conversation. I really do. Because look, ultimately our goal is to provide what y'all want. But see, that's tricky because not everybody wants the same thing. Some people want to know, is my house going to get hit by a hurricane? I don't want to know anything else. And you know what? If it's not going to hit my house, I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to hear things 10 days out because it's going to be wrong 10 days out. We get that. I mean, you see the comments. You see the comments that say, why are you posting something 10 days out if it's going to be wrong? I agree with that, which is why I show ensembles. I'm not going to post an operational run because it's going to be wrong. So the response, well, I can see it elsewhere. Why aren't you posting it? I don't think it holds water. Just because something is shown elsewhere doesn't mean it's my responsibility to do so, especially if I think it's going to be wrong. I want to post what I think is going to be right. That's my take. All right, so anyway, yeah, like I said, I noticed my old news director commented on Greg's post, and I was going to respond, but that's not my battle. Greg was ticked, and you know it. If you follow his page, you know it, because matter of fact, he posted like a 20-minute video yesterday with him explaining in his words why he felt the way that he did and what it was interesting. I watched it. It was actually a really interesting video. But the other side of the coin is, you know how it is. You've got people who are loyal to one group, and there's another group, and there's bickering between the two. And it is just the way it is, because you know how this goes. I watch so-and-so, and they're the best, and nobody else is any good. Or this person's awesome, and that's why I follow them. Because people are like that with their favorite sports teams, their favorite TV people, their favorite whoever, their favorite politicians. They get very opinionated and boisterous about their favorites. And then it turns into name calling, and then I got to hit the ban button, and it's just not worth it. So I do my best to try to avoid that at all costs, but it makes it very difficult because you're putting it out there, right? And Greg even says, I don't like to ban people. Well, you know what? I don't mind banning people at all if they're going to be rude. If they're going to be rude and condescending or name calling, I kick them out, period. That's my take. And there's a couple of, oh, you know, Dennis banned me. Well, you know, why were you a jerk? So it's kind of that easy. Don't be a jerk and you won't get banned. Really easy. Arguing is fine. Debating is awesome. I love stirring the pot, but you do it in a respectful fashion. You be an adult. You try to be an adult and debate in a respectful fashion as opposed to name calling. And if you get into name calling, you're gone. Now, Greg even said, I don't like to ban people. I don't like to, but if they're rude or disrespectful, they're gone. Okay, so that is my take. So let's see, and look, okay, and I'm gonna bring this up, and I'll even bring it up with Mike as well. You know this. So there have been meteorologists in the past who says it takes absolutely no skill to post a model. And they're right. They're right. And Mike has a story on that, and I'd let him share it if he wants to. But there are meteorologists out there, respected meteorologists, who don't appreciate people posting long-range stuff because anybody could do it. And I'm going to talk a lot with Mike about this because I've changed over the last 15, 20 years. Mike has changed in the last 5 or 6 years in a lot of ways because I'm the first to, he'll also be the first to admit, and we'll have this conversation when he's back, but Mike used to be far more hype-driven. He was. He absolutely was. He would post the worst-case scenario because as a weather person, there's kind of excitement that goes along with these scenarios. And I felt the same way. Now, this was prior to social media, but whenever there was a big storm coming, I would get fired up because there's an excitement that goes along with people who love weather and have a passion for severe weather. There just is. But as Mike and myself have had much larger following now, I think that carries a different responsibility. Now, that's just my opinion. But to me, you know, once you have 1-2 million people following you and you get these comments from people, and this is what Greg was saying, you get these comments from people, I depend on you to keep me safe. I depend on you to keep me sane. The reason I watch you is because you try not to scare me. I've told you this so many times. My job, in my opinion, is to take people by the hand and to get them through a storm. And that is not done by throwing out there the worst case scenario for no reason, especially when you know it's going to be wrong. You just know it. I'll say it again, 98% of the time, those long-range models are wrong. So what's the point? How are you I'm going to read your comments on this. How are you serving people by posting something that you know is going to be wrong 98% of the time? And I know the one response, I want to know in advance, okay? But do you want to know in advance something that you know is going to be wrong? How is that going to help? I genuinely, and this is what Greg was bringing up yesterday as well. Have you made, I think Greg's take was, have you changed your plans or prepped for something any differently on a storm that was 10 days out? I'm curious about that. Because to me, that's the bottom line. How does it help you? Versus how does it create stress? It's an interesting question. You know, I'll say it again. I hate to be wrong. I ain't posting something 10 days out that I know is going to be wrong 98% of the time. Even if I go on, now in this conversation here, you know, we can, because I can show you something and we can talk about it. Like, look, like we said before, I'll go ahead and show you the GFS operational because here's the ensembles, and the GFS is bringing some development in the Gulf in about 12 days. And the GFS operational turns something from down in that area where we always look. And this is next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it develops a tropical storm or a hurricane, okay? And this is probably going to do this every day for the next week to 2 weeks. And it probably won't happen for the next week or 2 weeks. But at some point, as I said, more often than not, the GFS kind of sniffs something out, And after a week or two, a lot of times it eventually happens. The timing that it shows here will be wrong for a week or two. And then a lot of times it starts to happen. Now, when we're having a conversation like this, yeah. But here's where it's different. You just take a 12Z operational run that brings a Cat 5 into Florida and post it on there and say, oh, look, here's next Wednesday, and that's it. You are not, or a week from whatever, you are not doing anyone a service with that. You're not preparing them because they're going to be wrong 98% of the time. And then you deal with Chicken Little complex. And then you get people who don't believe what they're seeing with good reason. Now, someone else commented, I saw in a comment on somebody's page, say, look, people are smarter than you give it, it wasn't talking to me, it was actually talking to somebody else, but people are smarter than you give them credit for. They can read these maps and know what that means. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that the average person will be able to look at a map like this and have an idea of what that's really saying, especially one single run, one single frame. Now, if you want to show a loop, maybe, but when you're showing a 12 or 13 or 14 day out operational forecast of one particular frame, I can't fathom how that's going to help anybody other than knowing that it's going to be wrong 98% of the time. That's kind of my take. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and look at your comments on this too, because I'm really curious to what you all say. Want to know what's happening now. We don't watch fearmongers. My Facebook feed, because I do weather, obviously, is constantly showing people's Facebook feeds with weather. People, Gulf Coast, whatever, and this and that, and they're everywhere. They're on my feed constantly. And there are many of them, many earlier in the season, that were all about push and hype. I don't know about, fear-mongering I can't comment on because I don't know what their motivation is. I don't know if that's their motivation. But hype absolutely is, because they're showing a single frame. They're not going to, are they going to ever show a 12-day forecast that shows nothing? Of course not. But if they're going to show a 12-day forecast that shows a Cat 5, what is that trying to create? Come on. You know exactly what it's trying to create. So I don't know the motivations. I can't speak for these people, but it shows up on my feed all the time. And if I'm a person who is just kind of scrolling and I see a Cat 5 hitting Florida in 12 or 13 days, it's going to freak me out, especially if it's a single frame. So, anyway, I just think it's I think it's a good conversation to have. I do, because ultimately, if you guys are telling me that there's something that you want to see that you're not seeing, then I'm going to give you that, or do the best of my ability to do so, because that's why I'm here. I mean, I told you this 20 years ago. In my mind, my job was just getting the weather right. That was I didn't have any responsibility to how that weather impacted people. My responsibility was to let you guys know what the forecast is going to be, and then you have to do what you do with it. That was my mindset. It was. And I started to realize as I got older and saw how storms impacted people directly, and the impact that we can have on people in a positive way, then all of a sudden I felt my responsibility changed, where my job wasn't just to get the weather right, but to get people through that particular situation. So that is kind of my take. And that will never change. So anyway, so like I said, I'm going to have Mike on tomorrow. He's supposed to text me back, actually. Tomorrow or Thursday, and we're going to talk about it, because I think it's a worthwhile conversation. And Mike has a gazillion followers, and the majority of the people who follow him appreciate his messaging. And that's important to realize. Think about that. Got a ton of followers, and those people like the messaging. So there is an audience for that. And then there's other people who say, I don't like the messaging because I think they're trying to scare me. But I think what's happened is people remember maybe what you used to be like, and maybe don't realize what you're like now, and in a lot of ways. And again, I just think it's a really good conversation to have, because ultimately, and we're going to call it a night because I want to go watch a football game, ultimately, our job here at Tampa Bay 28 is to provide you with information that you find useful and ways to help the community and ways to keep you safe. That is 100% what our goal is. We're a bunch of local people who live here like you do, and we're trying to help our neighbors. That's all it is. And if we hear from y'all, and that's why we have those listen booths that we go to where we listen to you and you tell us what you want to hear, it's our goal to hear what you're looking for and provide it. Pretty simple, right? That's our goal. And that's my goal. So if I hear there are things that it's kind of hard, because I mean, I now on all my social platforms have close to 2 million followers. So you're going to hear both sides. You're not going to make everybody happy. So I guess ultimately I do what my heart tells me, which is I'm not going to post long-range operational because it scares people for no reason. Look, if I knew that 12-day forecast was right, you're darn right I'm going to post it. I don't have any problems posting a long-range forecast if it's going to be right. But we're not there yet. We're nowhere near being accurate enough to be able to do that. Look at what was going to be Gabrielle. It was a 90% likelihood of development. 2 days later, it was gone. So we are nowhere near accurate enough to be able to go that far down the road. So why would I post something that I already know at the beginning has a 98% chance it's going to be wrong? I don't see the point. I don't see how that's helpful. Now, for people who are interested in weather and they want to see the long-range forecast and they don't subscribe to services where they can look at those, totally get that. If you're a weather enthusiast and you don't want to pay money to these services to be able to look at the Euro 10 days out or 12 days out or whatever, and you want to see it somewhere, knock yourself out. By the way, I was the same way. I would have loved to have seen it. So I do get that. But saying, the comment that, I was reading, it's out there. Why aren't you posting it? Why are you making your iPhone? If you can see it on my phone, why is my iPhone more relevant than you are? And that wasn't to me, but you're missing the point. The point isn't that we're able to post a 12-day forecast out. The point is, why would we if we know it's going to be wrong? Right there. That's it. And for the average person, my goal is not providing information for a weather enthusiast. That is not my job. My job is preparing my audience, my community, my neighbors for what is reasonably going to happen and be prepared for that moment. Two different audiences, in my opinion. That's kind of the way I look at it. So there you go. All right, guys. I am going to go watch football, and we'll be back tomorrow. Michael will be here tomorrow or Thursday, not sure which. And I think it's just really good conversation. You guys, like I said, Mike's been a friend of mine for 20 years. Respect the heck out of what he does. Our messages are different. And you know what? I think it's because our audience is different. In some ways. Some ways are the same. We'll get into that later. Wednesday, editor of the Farmer's Almanac. That's going to be a blast as well. Tomorrow, watch out for rain early on. Check out Greg bright and early in the morning. He'll be updating as always. He'll be on TV as well as on social. I think we're going to have some pretty heavy rain at times tomorrow and again on Wednesday. And then cooler, a little cooler, but much drier air comes in late Friday, Saturday, into Sunday. So you guys have a great night, and I will see you on tomorrow night's edition of Dennis Phillips Live. See you guys.